Making an English queen, not English. Oh, click the links if you want to get a hold of me, your sport channel. Nobody is going to criticize this because they're scared to be called istophobic. You got to just move beyond caring about that. They call everybody that. It's like their go-to control word. They're counting on you not complaining. But what if you just said, screw it, sort of became ungovernable, take the power away from them? It's like that meme of a million protesters surrounding a few cops and the cops saying that they're going to arrest them. There'd be no Twitter censorship if we left and went to Gab or Parler. Same for YouTube if we went to DLive and BitSlide. And I know people hesitate to leave Twitter because the mainstream is producing much of the content. But leaving YouTube's easier because the best content is by amateurs. All right, so historical accuracy. Wish me luck, because some things are very difficult to do on YouTube, almost to the point of not wanting to bother with them. So making this Netflix special with an actor that is not English, though she's supposed to be, and some of her court are black, which of course is not historically accurate. It's weird to me because you're saying that African history is not good enough for your standards. England and Africa are very different. They're distinct. They don't have to be the same. It would be like if you switched it and you set it in a village in Africa. You got 500 years ago anyway, mud huts with thatched rooftops, half-naked women sitting around grinding roots with those mortar and pestle things or repairing shields. But you had two half-naked blonde English women who were there. Wouldn't that make the viewer wonder why? I mean, if you're going to create a fantasy world, why didn't you set it in Africa and put English people over there? Or maybe not even set it on Earth. Did you bring Africans to England because you thought that the English setting was more glamorous? That in itself is just subjective. In England, and if I was unkind, I would call you istophobic for assuming that England is better than Africa. It's just different. In England, they wear ornate, complicated dresses. In Africa, the women usually dressed simply in a type of skirt. I think it was called a mochi or mocha, not the Japanese candy. The men would occasionally dress up for special events, wearing these ornate feathered costumes that were pretty awesome. But Netflix would never show that because they think half-naked women and mud huts is an insult. It isn't. It's just a different way of life. England can get very cold in winter. If you don't cover up, you will die. By putting Africans in English history, they're saying African history isn't good enough. It is. Imagine going to battle, essentially wearing a skirt with a spear, a club, and an oxhide shield. That makes for a very exciting story. Or going hunting for deer, but having to fend off hungry lions and hyenas from stealing your catch. What makes Europe and Africa interesting is that they're different. If you mix African with England and vice versa, then the people and culture blends until they are indistinguishable. When there's no need to visit Africa because Europe is Africa. Globalists want to turn the entire world into McDonald's. Different places are different because they have different people. It's a boring world if every country is so diversified that you can't tell them apart. This Netflix world isn't set in a fantasy world. They're actually trying to change history. The story is based on real people in England, which for some reason has an African queen. But why? English people want to be represented by English people. Would you send an English queen to rule an African village? No, that wouldn't happen because they'd get black viewers complaining. And to be fair, you'd get probably more left-wing people complaining than black people. But Netflix listens to black viewers because they treat them like, well, I'll say they treat them like purse puppies. The left wing tends to treat non-European people with kid gloves, which is, it's just the bigotry, the lowered bigotry of soft expectations. So blackwashing and changing history is not going to stop. This type of stuff is part of their humiliation ritual. It's like the Avengers movie making a Norse god African. It is so laughably insane. But what are you supposed to do? Hollywood is run by globalists whose handbook is 1984. But it's not quite illegal to talk about yet. It's just a movie, except they're not in Narnia. These are based off of real events and real people. But the real people who made the history don't fit the narrative, so they got to be swapped out. Isn't that racist cultural appropriation? Yes, yes, of course it is. But who's going to keep Hollywood in check? The media is controlled by these same far-left globalists. To be fair, not every writer or reporter is far left, but the shot callers are. That's why the media has an elephant in the room in certain topics, because to bring them up would just get you fired and blacklisted. It's sort of a self-selecting thing with the media. They're counting on people being too scared to discuss the issue of changing history. They just call anyone istophobic, and it will shut down most conversations. We have to learn to move beyond that manipulative technique of conditioned fear self-censorship. Otherwise, we have ceded control of the battleground. We need to get comfortable with calling more things, I was going to use the R word, but I'll say more accurate terms, calling things propaganda by socialists. And we need to look more closely at the people behind the propaganda. Who are they? What's their history? What's their motivation? The decision was defended by the author Julie Quinn, that's her pen name, her real name is, I forget what it is, who asserted that many historians believe she had some African background. It's a highly debated point. That means no, there wasn't. What if there was something that had been acknowledged and accepted at the time? What if she used that position to bring other people of color to positions of power? What would society have looked like? Well, the thing is, everyone's a person of color. If person of color now just means marginalized and oppressed, well, some of the English people were the most marginalized and oppressed people on earth. Yes, they are people of color. It's always try to use their words against them. If they call you istophobic, say you can't be because you're a person of color, you're marginalized and oppressed, you don't have the power to be istophobic. You know what I'm saying? Use their manipulative techniques against them. Always claim oppression. Because everyone is a person of color. Everyone is oppressed or has been oppressed. Very few people are at the top of the hierarchy, and it's not white people who are at the top of the hierarchy in any nation, not even in England. She states the decision to race swap number of characters was very much a conscious choice. No shit. Okay, the theory of the African descent is based primarily on her appearance in a portrait painted by an artist. Depicts the queen with stereotypically strong African features. No. People had curly hair. English people had curly hair. Where I don't know if she's German. German people had curly hair too. Everyone has got the gene for that. Artists were expected to play down, soften, or even obliterate undesirable features. But the fact that it's not there is proof that it was originally there. That's insane. Well, then why wasn't she an alien? Oh, she's decidedly African in all of her portraits. No, actually, I think she's a Martian from Mars. Because artists at the time were expected to play down Martian features. It's just nonsense. You're talking crazy talk. She was descended from a black branch of the Portuguese royal family. Yes, because the Portuguese are a shade darker than the English, or a couple shades darker. They're Portuguese. They're in the sun. The Spanish, Portuguese, Italians, the Greeks. It's very sunny down there. They get a tan. That doesn't make them Africans. So even taking your argument 100% to its logical conclusion and saying, okay, say she did have this African ancestor. So what is she, like 1,000% African? Like she's Elizabeth Warren African? It's nonsense. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. No, I couldn't stretch this out to 10 minutes. Sorry, YouTube. And I will see you guys all on DLive, Bitchute, Gab, and Parler.